kid growing up in the early 2000s, I was always seeing everything try to figure out what kids thought was cool. All the gross out crap, all the slime, all the edgy stuff, it was really weird. But all the kids I knew, like it was skateboarding, it was snowboarding, it was Sonic and sunglasses, that's what every kid I knew thought was cool. I always found it interesting looking back at platformers from that time because it's sort of like a big time capsule. Like this is what it felt like being a kid back then. Before the corporations had our brains solved and knew what we want. No, back then they were throwing whatever they could at the wall trying to see what would stick. I don't know, what do these kids want? The evil games. Attack and the Power of Juju has always been the one game from that era that's really stuck out to me the most like that because like it clearly is trying to be cool to kids, right? Like it's got the snowboarding, it's got the sarcasm and all that stuff, yet it is still so clearly detached from that Sonic sunglasses idea of cool. But you know what? It, weirdly enough, ended up doing quite a bit better than a lot of the copycats doing that sort of thing. And even today, like, this game seems to have quite a cult following. Now, I've never actually played any of these games, not once. In fact, when I was growing up, I didn't know a single kid that did. But we all knew about it. Like, there was so many commercials for it on YTV, and a lot of magazine ads, and like Nintendo Power, and I think Archie Comics too. Mostly this first game, it was like 2004 I was seeing this. But yeah, like, all my friends and me, we all knew about Attack and the Power of Juju, but none of us had any interest in it. So it always just remained at the back of my brain as this thing I always knew about, but never knew anything about. I guess this was Nick's big attempt at making an original game series, cause you know they made tons of games based on their shows back then, SpongeBob, Timmy Turner, and of course, good old James Isaac. Ooh, Attack of the Twonkies, now that is a dope game. So hey, why not make an original game? Well, I can sort of think of why, actually, you know, like kids are buying them based on recognizing them from TV, so I don't know if that's really, would that even really work as well? Oh, okay, well I guess I did technically recognize it from TV, just commercials on TV and not an actual show. They did actually make a show based on it a couple of years later, but by then I was in middle school and I wasn't really watching TV much anymore. I never saw a single episode of it. I don't know the first thing about it, honestly. But man, when this thing first came out, I was the precise 4th grade demographic, and I was seeing ads for this thing all the time, and I thought the characters looked really ugly, and the game didn't look like anything I wasn't already getting from Rayman 2 or 3, and that's pretty much what I thought as a kid. Maybe my brain was too occupied with Sonic and sunglasses, I don't know, but it certainly didn't seem like the kind of thing that would get your average North American kid all that excited. But that didn't stop Nickelodeon from pushing it as the next big thing. I mean, look how many commercials they made. Look how many games they made. Like, I feel so detached from this thing's success because apparently this game sold well over 1 million copies? What? And that's just the first game. Was that purely the power of marketing? Or was there actually something here that genuinely did stick with people? I think it's high time I finally figured that out. Clearly there's enough people that still find this thing interesting in some shape or form. I mean, this has been one of the most requested games on this channel forever. So every time I'd see one at a pawn shop, I'd scoop it up. Kinda ended up with like whatever version of each game. I did try to avoid the PS2 versions just because I do know that is usually the weakest of the 3 when it comes to multi-platform games back then. The first one's not on Xbox though, so I guess we're going GameCube, which honestly is pretty nice because yeah, this is the version I would have had if I had this as a kid. But yeah, now that I got all 3 games, I'd say it's been a long time coming. Let's finally figure out what TAC is. 38 blocks. I've never seen a GameCube game take 38. Usually it's like more than 50 or it's under like 7. I've never seen that medium amount of blocks before. This is one of the most beautiful platformers I've ever seen. Well, we'll see about that. Attack. Smash things up on the mighty rhino. Avoid foul play in the chicken suit. Chicken suit. I need to find out what this video game is. What are we talking about? So of course, Nick Games and THQ both handled publishing, as they did with all those games back then, but who made this? Oh yeah, the logo with the most effort put into it, now that's the one that really matters. And we got Avalanche Software. Why don't we pop on over to their Moby games, see what else they made. Wait, Hogwarts? I didn't expect that. It looks like they worked on some pretty goddamn big names after TAC, wow. Well, from what I can tell, they made all 3 of them, at least the console versions, and, oh wait, There's like a weird fourth one they didn't make. How many tack videos are we making? They're owned by WB now, unfortunate, but hey, back then they seemed to be your typical licensed Game B studio. You know, you want to put Tommy Pickles on the GameCube, you call one of these guys. Oh my god, they made Dragon Ball Z Sagas. That is like the worst Dragon Ball game of all ever made. And I'm sure that thing being a disaster was like a production thing, but that is both fascinating and funny as hell, knowing that the people who worked on that also made Tak and the Power of Juju. And that's not just a logo-based assumption either. No, I checked for names, and I found a lot of the same people on both games. Early on, they were kind of all over the place with ports and sports until one day, a little idea from 1995 got pitched up to Nickelodeon. Yeah, so they approached Nick, and Nick said yeah, at least according to this 2012 interview from IGN with John Blackburn, the, something on Tak, I don't know what he did. The credits don't say who did what. No, he's the creator. Okay, well now I just feel dumb. The article at least tells you. John goes on to describe how much creative control they had, which I guess explains why it feels more unique than most platformers back then. They really were just doing their own thing, instead of trying to figure out what the kids want. Now John here says that Nickelodeon was nothing but helpful, bringing ideas to the table and stuff, and he liked them all. But that still kind of implies that Nick did have some influence over this project, which I think explains some of the things in here. We'll get into this. We'll get into that later. Title screen sure feels on budget. Nice, smooth environment pan over the lush green tree village warmly lit by the torches. The environment's really nice looking, actually. And the music's really good, too. Well, down here in the extras, we got a whole bunch of advertisements for various Nickelodeon stuff. That's par for the course for a Nickelodeon game back then.
You can watch SpongeBob dehydrate!
Is that a music video about... This is really how they advertised stuff back then. Wild boy, wild boy. Alright, that's enough of that. Anyway, sorry, new game. We open up with a shaman named Jabulba trying to summon some otherworldly spirit called a Juju.
I can never remember that part. What is it going to take to get into contact with a powerful Juju spirit from another world? It worked!
What worked?
Hello?
Hi?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You do not speak, but I see that you listen.
I do speak, but I see that you don't.
A power stick you hold in your hand. I have never seen a Juju like you before.
Oh, he summoned me.
And what is this magic box you watch me on?
Okay, this is pretty fun. You know, you get some simple fourth wall breaking humor to illustrate your relationship with the game as the player, and then Jabulba begins to explain the basics of the plot we got here. So the Poopa-Nunu people here in the village are protected by the Moon Juju, but the problem here is the Moonstones, the source of the Moon Juju's magic and protection, that was stolen by the jealous and power-hungry Tlaylock.
That's Tlaylock. He's not nice.
This bad dude uses the Moonstones to transform all of the Poopa-Nunu people into useless sheep that can't stop him. But fear not, for we still have the Poopa-Nunu prophecy.
A mighty warrior trained by the High Shaman will defeat Tlaylock and save the Moon Juju. I have trained such a warrior. His name is Locke. Tak, what are you doing?
You told me to go get Locke.
Wait a minute. Wait, like, Tak's not the hero? We don't even play as the hero of the story. No, we're like some other random guy because the actual hero got blasted with the now you're useless spell. That's actually a really funny idea for a plot. Okay, I like that a lot. That's a good platformer plot idea. So yeah, first impressions on the setting and story and stuff. It's certainly funny and interesting, but it is kind of weird too, because you know, they're supposed to be little tribal dudes, but and there's definitely elements of like voodoo magic and whatever, but like wasn't voodoo all like African tribe stuff? So you know what I mean. You get into weird territory the way they're depicting these guys, especially considering the name of their village is essentially poo-poo. But I would love to know what people actually from the cultures this stuff is inspired by would think of this, because, you know, on one hand, I think it is cool to get kids interested in that sort of thing, but like on the other, I don't really know how sensitive this all is. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents. I'm not gonna pretend I'm any authority on that. But yeah, it's certainly a weird and interesting thing that's very different from the settings you would see back then. As for the characters and voice acting and stuff, yeah, it is superb. It is totally on par with your average Nickelodeon show from the time.
The mighty warrior doesn't lick my foot. Stop the licking, Locke!
Some jokes I do find kind of gross. It definitely does have that disgust era crap in this game. I think that's the Nickelodeon influence. Again, it gets worse, but more on that later. Overall, I do like it though. They clearly have a lot of great voice talent here because the delivery really sells it all.
They crushed him like a bug!
Well, can we uncrush him or something?
Yeah, if you're a fan of the Weekenders, Tak's voice is gonna sound familiar. That's Tino Tonatini. He was always one of the most relatable cartoon characters of all time to me, so hearing that voice coming out of this dude, I didn't expect that, but it was a pleasant surprise.
Okay. What have I got to do?
Yeah, I'd say that fits pretty good. I think Jason Marsden does a really good job voicing Tak. Though you best be prepared to hear him say some extremely early 2000s quips when you're playing the game.
Oh, that's gonna leave a mark. Owned!
Rob Paulson's in here too, and dude, he gives some cracked out performances.
I did it! I win! Oh yeah! I'm bad! I'm nationwide!
The voice you're going to be hearing the most, though, is Jennifer Hale. She voices Tak's companion, this little wood sprite named Flora. She's also the daughter of the Moon Juju, and follows along to give you pointers and tips and stuff.
Sometimes you'll notice that the camera's not facing the same direction you want to go. You can use the camera stick to rotate the camera around yourself.
Oh my god, they take so long to explain things as basic as moving the sticks and pushing the buttons. Are we really doing this?
Okay, Tak. In the end, I think you'll find most animals to be helpful in some way or another.
If you come across an animal, you should experiment with it to learn how it can help you.
I get the idea they're going for. They want this to feel like a real conversation between the characters, not just verbatim video game instructions. But dude, you gotta not make it drag on this long. One excruciating tutorial later, we finally land in the hub world, free and ready to tackle any objectives at hand. So yeah, why don't we see what we got for controls here? Okay, we got a basic double jump. Oh, that feels pretty stiff, actually. If you have your full momentum going into it, like you really run into it, it's never a problem. And it usually does get the job done. But man, the physics feel like you're going through molasses sometimes. Like if you don't have a running start, or if you're like in a tight space, it just doesn't really feel very good. B button, of course, whack stuff with your club. No 3-hit combo or anything, you just mash to swing infinitely, so it's super simple and effective. I like how much you can break stuff without having to stop. It kind of feels like, remember when Twilight Princess made it so you didn't have to stop anymore to cut the grass? It kind of feels like that. I do like that a lot. The combat is just about as complicated as it should be for a game like this. Just give them a couple good whacks and they're gone. They're more like obstacles than fighting opponents, which is great. Keeps the gameplay focused on the exploration and platforming. There's also Juju Powers you can find a little bit later into the game that spices up the combat a little bit, but we'll get to that when we find them. Oh, what else can you make Tak do? You can do like a sort of long jump, you know, holding the trigger in Mario and jumping out of the crouch. You do the long jump. It's like they copied that, but without any of the animation feedback to make it feel any good. There's no duck or slide or anything telling you that pushing L is doing something. You just kind of have to know and trust that pressing A after pressing L is gonna do this. The move doesn't even feel very good. It's got that like forward locking feel to it that barely gives you any control over it. Like I've fallen off the edge trying to do this so many times. There's really nothing meaningful you can do with it other than I guess getting around slightly faster. I mean, you're not getting any distance out of it. Your double jump actually goes further than this. Sometimes I do a cool jump with it and that did feel neat, but it was never because I had to or was helpful to. It was because I was desperately trying to get some use out of it. Yeah, it's kind of useless. You could probably cut this move entirely, and I don't think anything would be any different. Jump at a rope, and Tak will automatically grab onto it. Up and down on the stick, then climbs and descends, and if you want to start swinging, hold the B button, and then the stick will swing. Forward and back, and yeah, you really gotta sway it back and forth. It doesn't feel amazing. I find it sways around a little bit more than I'd like, but hey, it works well enough once you know just to give yourself a second with it. Just be a little patient with it, and it's fine. Like any decent platformer, we've got a ledge grab, and oh, that's pretty good actually. The animation for climbing up, you know, it's snappy enough, but moreover, it's reliable. This thing is responsive and always works when I'm trying to get it to. Well, that's basically what we got for controls. Why don't we now follow Flora on down to the burial grounds to retrieve that stick thing Jabulba wanted us to get. Oh, level design's actually pretty good down here. There's this distinct visual clarity, like the way the collectibles are placed. It's really easy to get a good lead on where to go just by turning the camera. Grab all those shining teeth, slam them in that statue, and that mummy tomb opens up. The staff is ours for the taking.
Only the great warrior can have the staff. If you can take the staff from me, you are meant to have it.
Whoa.
Whoa is right, dude, because we just unlocked a pretty wicked sick move. Okay, so from now on, you can use the R button to swap between your two weapons. We had the club, and now we also have the staff. You can use this thing as a blowgun, going in first person to hit switches or enemies or whatever, but when you're in third person, it changes that double jump into a pole vault. And this move is so much fun to use. So when you hit the button, you don't jump right away. You get this little animation first, so you have to press the button a little bit before you want to pop off. Now, the fact that you gotta time this thing alone, well, that already makes it quite a bit more engaging than that generic double jump, but what really makes that animation so freaking cool is you get coyote time during it. So that's like when you walk off a ledge, but for a few extra frames when you're still in the air, you are still able to jump. It's just a subtle thing you don't usually notice to improve the game feel. I know Celeste does that. Okay, well, I guess this isn't exactly that, but okay, if you've ever rolled off a ledge in Donkey Kong and then jumped out of that, it's kind of like that. You enter the animation before you're falling, you fall off a bit, and then you pop back up. As long as you actually hit the button while your feet were still touching the ground, it still counts. So now you're doing all these cool little skips, taking tiny shortcuts all over the place, or maybe bridging a gap that feels a little bit too wide just to get around a little bit faster based on you doing something cool. And that is what so many platformers from this time are sorely missing out on. Just something a little more interesting than just another generic standard double jump. And listen, like, people argue with me about double jumps all the time. Yeah, they are easy to use. They're easy to just get the guy to go where you want him to go. But I don't really find it all that interesting when the solution to every piece of geometry before you is holding forward and mashing A. And that's not to say every single platformer's gotta have like Mario 64 degrees of complexity to the movement. No, this move is not complex. This is a very simple move. It's just as easy to use and understand as that double jump. But the fact that you're thinking about pushing that button a little bit more, you're thinking about the timing a little bit more, that tiny little bit really does substantially improve how engaging the move is. It improves how cool it feels, how fun it feels. And by extension, that improves the fun factor of the entire freaking game. So color me impressed, man. Like, I am really surprised, but no, yeah, Tak really was out here doing this a little bit better than most games back then. Now, if you're not into the whole tricky-dicky stuff, you can just use a double jump, but you will need the pole vault whenever you need to get up to a higher ledge that you can't normally jump to. The double jump is still doable while holding this pole, it's just that the L plus A move is now replaced with it. Again, weird way of doing that. It would have made more sense to hold L and then you get like Tak holding up the pole and then pressing A vaults, but I don't know. At least you can still do both moves without swapping all the time. Oh yeah, you can also whack guys with it. I totally forgot. It is another weapon after all. Unlike the club though, this one does give you a pretty rigid 3-hit combo, which I don't think feels as good. But for the beginning of the game, this will be your stronger of the two weapons, so you will find yourself using it early on. Now around here is where I got a little confused. I didn't remember what Juboba wanted me to do because A, there was no subtitles, there's no options for subtitles, and what he said was really brief and hard to hear. And B, I hit every button on the controller, and I could not find a memo or objective message or a total screen or anything giving me any direction at all. I wanted to go back to Juboba to ask, but I couldn't find where he was again. I really didn't have my head wrapped around this hub world yet. Everything is so winding and kind of similar looking. All these huts, is it this one? Is it that one? I can't go in any of these. I don't know where I'm going. Luckily, I bumped into Flora, who did thankfully take me to where the next level is, Upper Tree Village, but even then, I kind of just found myself continuing forward without really knowing what my goal here was. But I guess it is enough to go on for now, so hey, why don't we see what these mechanics can do? So a lot of the gameplay here going through a level is your typical jumping on simple suspended platforms, climbing up ropes, whacking all the bad guys along the way, but many times you'll have to stop and look around and figure out how to get a door or something open, often by using whatever you got around you to move around the characters and getting them all working together in some kind of way. First up, we got the orangutans. These guys will continuously pull these trees down to grab a banana over and over, so if you walk on top of the leaf during that, you can use them to fling yourself away, either up to an out-of-the-way platform, or maybe way across to a brand new section of the level. Now sometimes you're gonna have to get these guys to move over to a different tree, and there's actually a number of ways you can do that. Firstly, you can grab a melon, pluck that off the bush, and just lure him over with his hungry appetite. If you got no melons around though, you might just have to start some monkey conflict. These tree monkeys up here, if you fire at them with the blowgun, they'll get their revenge and throw something back. but you can trick them. These are not smart monkeys. They're gonna think just whoever is closest to them did it. So if you get the orangutan closer than tack when you fire that, oh yeah, it attacks the orangutan attacks it, and then you've got the orangutan move to a new tree. You can also trick them into firing at a switch for you, which always takes the shape of a sheep running on a treadmill. I mean, yeah, it's tack. What did you expect? Pushing a block on a switch? No, it's weird. We gotta be doing something a little kooky. So instead of that, you're picking up these sheep and you gotta put them on these treadmills to power something. Maybe a platform will come down, or maybe a door will open. I love the way you get engulfed by the sheep's fluff. It's very silly looking, but it also serves as a cool mechanism because now the orangutan think you're the sheep. They're gonna come and grab the sheep off of you. And they fling it away. What are you doing? Sometimes you do want this to happen, like you might want to move the sheep over to somewhere, but other times you gotta find a way to move or distract the orangutan in order to sneak it by safely. Okay, this is so cool, man, because there's so many different components to the puzzle. You know, there's like the sheep, there's the orangutans, there's the tree monkeys, there's the melons, but each of those individual pieces, they all interact with each other. Each one can interact with each one, and every interaction is different. So there's like enough complexity to the puzzles that it never feels like you just walk into a room and you already know what to do. You know, it's like match the pictures. Oh, there's a switch. Hit it with the thing that hits the switch. The arrow to the eyeball, the whole Zelda puzzle fallacy. The older you get, the more just context and process of elimination. You just know what to do the moment you walk in the room and you go through the motions. I was so surprised how much this game avoids that, because like I see an orangutan, then I'm counting how many trees there are, then I'm seeing if there's melons, I'm seeing if there's sheep, and I'm seeing like you gotta figure out where to put tack to position him to trick that monkey into thinking that monkey hit him, or I don't know. There is always enough to it. There's always enough complexity. That's not like hard to figure out puzzles. It's still like kids puzzles, but they're like really cool and fun, and I was actually stopping and thinking and having like a really great time solving these. I gotta say, dude, like genuinely impressed by the puzzles in this game. Some animals you can even ride, like the rhino. Jump aboard, give his butt a good whack, and I guess the speed here isn't exactly what you'd expect from a charging rhino, but hey, you can break fences and open up some more areas, and yeah, that just about does it for that guy. There's also an emu. I think you only see it twice, one time just for a long, speedy stretch of careful jumps, and the other just for a find all of the things puzzle. Oh, right, the goats, I can't forget about those. So these guys are basically bodyguards in the way. If they see you, they're gonna knock you right off. To get by them, you have to distract them first, either with a melon or by one of those tree monkeys. However, you can just kind of pole vault by them. Like, it really only took me 2 to 4 tries each time. You can just flat out skip every puzzle involved with one of these pretty easily. And while most of the time you're not really missing out on much by doing that, one time it was a big bummer. I was thinking there's like a lot going on here. What was the puzzle? So I actually went back and did it just to see what it was. And it was this cool thing about moving water between basins to make a little part where you can swim through with the melon without dropping and splatting it. Like, it is way too good a puzzle to be able to be skipped this easily. Like, you could accidentally not even know this was a thing to do. Luckily though, that is the only time in the game I ever did feel that way. Well, back to my what do I do dilemma. I advanced to the tree village until it eventually loops back to where I started. I did fight these 3 plant things that each gave me an item. That's gotta be something, right? I head back to the hub, spend another good bit looking for Jabulba again. Still couldn't find him, but I do find another chunk of the hub that leads to 2 more levels. Dry Rock Canyon, a rocky cliff of ledges and drops, and Chicken Island, a healthy blend of plains and beaches, home to a rival tribe that worships chickens.
Chicken Island is home to a people that worship chickens. They do.
I wander around for a little bit and I find this big gong. It says I need the Amulet of Champions, though. Is that what I'm looking for? Do I need to find that? Before too long, I begin to realize that no, the only real thing to do in each of these worlds right now is fighting those plants and getting those seeds. There's 3 of them in each of the 4 levels, amounting to 12 plants total. But at this point, I was sick of operating on maybes. I wanted some real concrete direction, so I actually played back my gameplay footage of that earlier cutscene just to see what Jabulba actually freaking said to me.
And put the teeth into the statues. And get me some magical Lubu plants while you're out.
Lubu plants. Okay, so those mini-bosses are what I'm doing, I see. I guess to make a potion to transform Locke back. Yeah, well, you know, why be the hero when you can be a gopher? Errand boy tack, that's us. This is where the combat becomes a total mess. It's not like this anywhere else in the game, but these specific plant mini-bosses are borderline unplayable, dude. Many of them have these attack animations that are way too fast to be able to dodge, so you just get knocked the heck around, even stun-locked to death easily. And it feels like they knew these fights were pretty broken because they made dying here have no penalty at all. The boss's health is still the same when you respawn, so just run at it again and die and again and die, and after redoing it eventually you just get it. Wow, this sucks, dude. Like, I really wanted to actually try here. I wanted to look at it and figure out if there's something I'm doing wrong, see if I can make those dodges and beat it for real. But you never even get a chance to try it for real because the fight never restarts. Oh well, better broken and easy than broken and frustrating, I say, but man, yeah, these fights are busted. I clunkle bunk my way up to 10 Lubu plants, and now, yeah, there's no avoiding it. I really have to find Jibulba's hut. I wander around for a little bit, and after a while I did actually begin to wrap my head around the place. I think it just needs some more uniquely colored and shaped landmarks, and maybe the pathways being a little less tucked in could help too. But after you come back enough times and you start to get a feel for the layout, it really does start to feel like a really nice little hub area. And there we go, there's Jibulba's hut, just across this bridge I somehow kept missing.
I have the herbs and spices, Jibulba.
You did well, Tak. Now I can perform the transformation spell and bring him back.
That ain't Locke.
At least your transformation spell worked. Tobar, can you tell us what happened to Locke? Jibulba? You sure you did that spell right?
With the search for Locke continuing on, Jibulba tasks us with finding a shaman spirit rattle, something that can cast spells, while he looks for the actual Locke in the process. We head back to Lower Tree Village where we get our first boss fight with Tlaylock's 2 minions, these voodoo dolls named Pins and Needles. They just run around, grab stuff, throw it at them. It's not too hard. Beat them and the spirit rattle is yours. Functionally, this serves as the upgrade to the club. This will take its spot, and it is even more powerful than the pole, so you'll be switching to this now whenever you want to take on some enemies. In addition to the melee, the spirit rattle also grants you Juju Powers. From now on, you can find these purple tokens that'll grant you another Juju spell. You don't really need any of these at all. They're really just helpful optional abilities that can really come in handy. The one I used the most was definitely the Thunder Strike. Anytime there was a bigger enemy that was a little bit harder to take out, this was a surefire way to get rid of them pretty fast. Probably the most OP spell is the one that'll change any enemy into a chicken. That really comes in handy during those really late areas where you have to beat a lot of enemies in a careful or time-saving way. We got a stun move that shakes the earth and paralyzes every single character around you. There's the Spirit Strike, which homes in on tons of enemies, and even a healing move that'll restore your health. This one only really matters in like 2 areas, because again, in most places, dying doesn't actually have a single consequence. But I tell you, the areas it is helpful, it did save my butt a couple of times. Some of these are passive upgrades. One increases the amount of mana you can carry, and another acts as a feather magnet, making picking all that stuff up all the easier. There's Crazy Feet. This one slowly drains your mana to make Tak run a bit faster, and there's even a late game one that lets you spawn a melon. That's great. When I was doing cleanup for 100%, this really came in handy. Just made retreading areas go by way faster anytime I needed to like move an orangutan to get somewhere real fast again. Now, as helpful as these abilities can be, you can't just use them all willy-nilly. No, you're gonna want to ration those mana feathers because some Juju Powers cost a lot, and you only get so much. It ain't like picking up coins in a Mario game, you know, most of these do not come back. It's like picking up the finite amount of gems in Spyro, except instead of contributing to completion, this is a resource. That chicken spell, for example, extremely helpful, super OP, but it costs a lot, so if you use it too many times, you're gonna run out, and then you can't use any Juju Powers for a really long time. This is not something I expected, such survival-ass resource clutching, but considering it is just optional help that you don't really need, I feel like it really works here. I was being careful about my uses of these powers. I avoided using them when I felt like I really didn't need to, so when I did whip it out, it felt like it actually mattered. And by the end of the game, when you're doing those last couple of temples that are really hard, like I really did need the help, and I didn't have a ton to use. So the idea of running out and having to repeat a room with no help did suck, but it inspired me to really try to make the most of it. So yeah, I actually liked this quite a bit. I'm a big fan of saving resources in games. You know, I got that mad that survival horror brain going on with me, so this clicked with me really well. And I guess if it's not something you even want to deal with, I could see some people just finding it annoying. There is at least a very easy to remember cheat code you can punch in on the pause screen whenever you just want some more. Well, why don't we bring that rattle back to the village and give it to Jaboba. He's already found Locke, crushed to a pancake by a flock of sheep. If we're gonna turn him back, we're going to need two things. A, we gotta go to the spirit world and find his spirit, bring it back, and B, we need 100 of these magical spheres called Yorbels.
100 magic Yorbels?
Yes, don't complain. When I was a young man, it used to take 10,000 magic Yorbels to do a resurrection spell.
Lucky me.
From now on, you can find these laying around all over the place, maybe tucked in a nook or cranny, maybe hidden inside a breakable object. There's 200 in the game, but you only need to collect half of them. Doesn't matter which one, so there's actually a lot of wiggle room here. Yeah, it's got that classic pick what levels you actually want to do structure that Mario 64 had. Just a bit looser, I guess. You know, there's way more Yorbels, but way less levels, so it's more about exploring the level as much as you want and then going on to the next. I mean, there was entire chunks and puzzles I had completely left untouched until I went back to get every single one. This is where the game opens up quite a bit, so each of those levels you've been to before, they're now populated with Yorbels, so you're free to go back to them, do as much retreading as you like to grab as many as you can find. But now that we have that spirit rattle, you can also unlock a secondary area deeper in each of these 4 spots. Just find that level's tiki statue, slam it in the altar, and boom, you got a brand new level. In the tree village, you'll get this blimp thingy to come down, and that'll take you up to the mountaintop. This wide open area of grass, rocks, and a ton of great puzzles. Dry Rock Canyon's second level is Dry Rock Caverns, a pitch dark cave. You'll have to follow the light to get through to the end, and then you'll harness the light into your spirit rattle, and then you can freely explore the cave yourself for all the Yorbels. It's a simple idea, and it's nothing I haven't seen before, but it's actually a pretty fun level. A lot of verticality, a lot of drops. It's fun to get around this place. Chicken Island leads us to Chicken Island West, a series of islands that has you flapping across the air in that chicken costume. Yeah, I'm not like trying to go this slow. This is actually just how slow you have to go, which didn't seem right. I thought I was doing something wrong. There's no way it's this slow, right? So I look it up, and every single playthrough I found a video of, it's like, no, yeah, they're all going this slow too. This is intended. Who intended this? You can flap the wings to go a bit faster, but you lose so much height when you do that it is rarely ever viable. It drags on, but hey, at least you can do some pretty cool stuff with this costume. Pressing B has tack drop an explosive egg. Pressing B while airborne, and you'll lob one forward before it blows up on contact. So the idea here is to litter the ground full of these, and then you blow it all up from afar. Okay, that's pretty fun. To obtain this costume, you'll have to free that level's Juju spirit, just like the Moon Juju. There's all sorts of spirit Jujus out there that can grant you an ability, or open a door, or help you on your quest in some shape or form.
You will wipe it!
You're gonna wipe it!
It's not my turn to wipe it!
Wait a minute, I'm not the one who ate Juju Chill!
Well, we'll just have to leave it unwiped!
Oh my god, again with the gross humor. It's kind of funny, I guess, but it didn't need to go on this long. There is a part of this cutscene I do find really funny, though, when they have to think of something Tack has to do to prove himself.
You must go in there!
It actually sounds like the voice actor really made that up on the spot and could not get through the line without laughing. Like, again, like the delivery really carries the whole script, even if the script's a little bit too much sometimes. Yeah, these characters are just as much a vessel for comedy as they are there to help you.
Wow! His spell was so powerful, I think he changed all the coconut trees in the world to grow explosive coconuts.
That is an extremely good reason as to why something in the environment is permanently changed in every level. The one you find in the main hub area is this little goober, and Tack refuses to take him seriously until he gets the boot. The mountaintop's got a really good part. There's a bored Juju here, and he wants a pet.
How about a nice fish?
No problem.
And a sheep.
Okay.
And an emu. And a rhinoceros.
What? How am I supposed
Just
to...
be glad I didn't ask for a killer whale and a polar bear and a bee colony.
Okay, we're getting a bunch of pets. Getting all of these animals back to the main spot is actually really fun. I particularly love the corner where you have to get the sheep, because these orangutans are set up to launch it in a big circle, so you have to find the timing to distract it so you can get it away. Okay, we got them all. Now what's this board Juju gonna give us?
Let's see. Surfboard, bodyboard, chalkboard, ironing board, circuit board, carving board, shuffleboard, snowboard.
Oh right, there's a snowboard thing. Oh no, this better not be like frustrating garbage. Oh my god, what? This is really good! This is really fun! Why is this snowboard minigame this good? What the hell? This is wicked sick! Whoa, whoa, Okay, who on the team was a big fan of SSX Tricky? Because this understands how to make a snowboarding game. It's really weird, dude. Usually when you get a snowboard minigame in a non-snowboard game, it's either gonna be the most rigid and okay thing ever, or it's like the worst thing you've ever played and you want to yell and scream and you're angry and you're never the same after Frogger Beyond. But this is shockingly good. The physics, obviously, are a lot more simple and forgiving than SSX, but it is all fairly similar. Like, you're holding A to crouch, and then you release to jump, and then while you're airborne, you can do all these rotations. You're using the stick instead of the D-pad, but it still works just the same, and then the X button will do a grab. You're gonna want to keep up those tricks to keep up your boost meter. When you have it full, press Z to gain a burst of speed, and you're gonna be sending tack way further off those jumps, allowing you all the way up to all these other cool parts of the course. Grinding is also a great way to get up to new areas, and again, it's very forgiving. Just press the Y button and tack's gonna snap to it, with no balancing or anything required. The shoulder buttons are a really big part of why this feels so good to control. When you're mid-air, you can press R or L to shift your weight left and right. This way you can better line up what footing you're going to land on, or maybe even grab certain items mid-air. So what are we doing here? You know, it's not a race or a trick contest or anything. No, this is just an optional course. The only things to do here are just find another optional Juju magic and just to grab a whole bunch more Yorbels, so you can put in exactly as much time as you want to into this thing. Maybe go down just once and pick up 2, or maybe you'll replay it 3 dozen times and grab them all. That's what I did. I mean, the course design just makes this so much fun. It is wicked good. There's so much verticality. It really feels like a later SSX Tricky level. There's so many different pathways that fork and rejoin. Dude, it was a blast flying down this mountain over and over, trying to find every little spot and grab every little thing. Back in the village, you can also find a sandboarding level. That's what you get for freeing that little guy there, and this controls exactly the same, so it's really just another course, and it is also a fantastic level. Less about the vertical and more about the width, more about going through caverns, more about falling into canyons. I love how you can grind on the ridges of the sand dunes, and the dinosaur bones too. That's so sick. So my brain is obviously drifting over to Sonic Adventure, because that is also a 3D platformer that has a snowboard and sandboard level, and I'm wondering if that was some sort of influence on this. Like, I could have easily seen an SSX fan at Avalanche going, okay, why don't we put that in our platformer too? But hey, we're gonna do it even better. And I'd say they did a damn good job of that, because wait, what is this? How did I... Wait, this is a total objectives. Wait, there is a screen showing you all of this? What? How did I open that? I swear I just hit the Z button to boost, but what? I don't know how I open this. I don't know how I never open this. You know what buttons you press in this controller to make that pop up? You hold Z, or Z if you live in the United States, and you press any direction on the D-pad. Yeah, I had to look into the manual to learn that. No wonder I never found that out. You know what the D-pad normally does? It just moves tack. It doesn't select anything. It's not like, it doesn't open menus. It just moves your guy. So it's like, why would I ever push this D-pad when the stick does the same thing but better? Out of curiosity, I looked up what it was in the PS2 version, and yeah, you just use the select button. But since the GameCube controller only has the start button, I guess they had to make it something weird. But they really could have avoided that confusion entirely if they just made the D-pad do menu stuff. Make this up on the D-pad. Make left and right swap your Juju Powers instead of holding Z and pressing R and L. Yeah, I guess it's just a weird quirk of the GameCube version, but moral of the story, don't play half of the game with no direction like I did. Don't do that to yourself. Okay, anyway, back on track. After doing most of all that stuff, you're very likely to have 100 Yorbels by now, so now all we gotta do is find Locke's spirit. So for this, you're gonna go to the Burial Ground second level, the Mummy Tomb. As the name implies, you're cracking open tombs and finding mummies, and... oh my god, it's an escort mission? No, well, okay. I hope you're prepared for what is probably actually the single most fun escort mission I've ever played. This is really good. So getting all the way in there, you're avoiding booby traps, a lot of the classic darts flying at you after stepping on the wrong tile, you know, classic Indiana Jones type stuff. But coming back out, you're gonna have to guide that mummy all the way back through it all. And in spite of guiding a character you can't control normally being something frustrating, this all really works, and I think it's for a number of reasons. So firstly, the big obvious, there are checkpoints. Yeah, if you mess up or like the mummy falls down or something, open, you're only going to have to restart that one room. And it's pretty fast about it too. All that usual time wasting, the waiting and stuff, no, you're not doing that. They got that figured out. Secondly, and this is a big one, damage does not matter. It's a mummy, he's already dead, so all those traps you have to avoid, the mummy just tanks it all. Like, I tell ya, I laughed pretty freaking hard when I turned the camera around and I saw this guy fumbling out just covered in darts. But yeah, the fact that the mummy is invincible is part of the puzzle. You're getting him to go over things that Tak can't. It actually kind of reminded me of Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, except a whole different take on it. And lastly, there's a little bit more to it than him just going towards you. You can whack him and he'll fall down. You can use that to either keep him stationary or even make him duck underneath something. And they even switched things up a little bit for the last one. This mummy's head will fall right off and he's always trying to get it back. So for this one, you can directly lure him onto switches by placing the head in different spots. Dude, I am so shocked and surprised by this game once again. I tell you, Tak and the Power of Juju is just full of surprises. Once you're done getting all the mummies back to the central room, the door to the spirit realm opens, and we can now finally go find Locke. This area is all about swapping between the mortal plane and the spirit plane. Gameplay-wise, that basically amounts to hitting a switch to make platforms appear, but it is very cool looking and sounding. Oh, the skybox here is ridiculously gorgeous. Yeah, let's just let that play for a good second. I love how you gotta smash open all these pods to find the right spirit. There is all sorts of wrong spirits, and they're gonna wreck your trek if you find one. So remember that cracked out Rob Paulson Juju spirit, we have to find a balloon for him. When you find it, you can even slow your descent with it. That's pretty cool. We continue forward and, oh, that's gotta be it, that's Locke. Why is he trapped in a balloon? That's really funny looking. There's also kind of something uncomfortable about it too, though.
I'm gonna take you back to Jabulba, and he's gonna put you back in your body.
Yeah, but first I got this terrible itch. Can you scratch my head?
We don't have time.
Come on, I can't reach it.
Hey, Peter. I can't do that voice at all. But yeah, Patrick Warburton would voice this guy. I mean, look at him. This next part is almost cool, but they really pull their punches with the design. So you've got all these wind currents that'll blow the balloon to the side, so you're thinking, oh cool, you gotta think of the position of Locke and Tak for this part. But they do nothing interesting with the shape of the level, it's just a bunch of straight hallways, so the only thing to do is go to one side and have it blow to the other. But then they start putting enemies on that one side, so you can't do that, and the only thing you can do is wait for the gust to be over. It feels like playtesters figured this out in 2 seconds. They were like, oh, make it so you can't just do that. And that just led to less things happening. Give me the weird bends, give me the moving objects, give me the stuff that I gotta go through the rope between Locke and me. I don't know. If any idea in this game is hella undercooked, it's definitely this one. We bring Locke back to Jabulba, who back into his body.
We really need you to save us, Locke.
All of my training has prepared me for this moment. I am ready, Jabulba, for I am the mighty warrior called for by the Papoo. Oh, Papoo, boo. Oh no. Oh! Ah. Yes. Yeah.
Why is it still going?
Oh, that's good. Oh my, oh my, oh my.
What's wrong with him?
This always happens when people get resurrected. They call it Resurrection's Revenge.
Whoa!
We'll just have to be patient.
Please!
Stay away from him.
Turn me off!
Okay, it's sorta funny, but it goes on way too long. Like, I did not need to hear Patrick Warburton make these sounds for this amount of time.
Heck, there is no more time. You'll have to get the moonstones while Locke recovers.
Resurrection's Revenge is a terrible thing.
Oh, sweet Juju.
With Locke out of commission, I guess it's just up to us anyway. Alright, so now we have the final stretch of the game. So remember those gongs that required that Amulet of Champions or whatever? Well, we just lifted that off of useless Locke, so now we gotta head back to each of those locations to open up a temple that hides one of the 3 moonstones. Now, one thing that's really nice is by now you've got a whole bunch of these portals open, so backtracking is a breeze. Just find the warp in the hub area, and you can quickly head back to any area in the game. Warping back to the village is always hilarious, because every time you get jumped by the enemies, because they put the enemies like slightly too close to it. I think the idea was to knock them out of the way to use the portal, but they definitely didn't consider what that looks like on your way back. But yeah, why don't we go tackle those temples? So the one up in the mountain is the one that has the least to it. It's just a big open area of cliffs and zip lines and all these doors doors you gotta open up. So there's this big Wheel of Fortune looking thing, and you'll have to input these simple combinations into it to open the corresponding door. Make your way up to it, go in, step on the switch, and you'll bring up these platforms one by one. Beyond this door lays one of the biggest wastes of time in this game, a DDR clone minigame. It's not very fun, and hardly even goes with the music at all. Can you out-boogie pins and needles? Yeah, you can, because it's the easiest thing on planet Earth. But I guess I'll take a boring minigame over a frustrating one any day. Boogie through the battle, and then you get the Moonstone. The other two areas are a lot better, so hey, let's go over to Chicken Island and open up that Chicken Temple. And this place has a lot to it. I was kind of surprised to see that they're still introducing brand new mechanics here this late in the game, but yeah, the chickens are a brand new puzzle animal. They're basically chaser enemies that double as a switch weight. So what you're trying to do here is grab a chicken egg and bring it all the way back to the lobby, where you can fry it in this pan to open the door. Picking up an egg will have every nearby chicken run towards you and attack. If you get hit, the egg goes splat. You gotta run back for another. You can render the chickens temporarily docile by hitting them with the club, so when you're working against the clock, because the door's only gonna be open so long, working a few well-timed strikes into the mix can get you ahead of the game. You can also swerve, or maybe jump over a pit in a weird way that has them falling down and getting left behind. Yeah, take that, dummies. Also, in that one same sequence, I love this rope here, because if you jump a little early, you have to wait for the ledge grab animation, so like when you're trying over and over, part of what you realize you can speed up is climbing a little bit higher and then jumping. I don't know, that was a small thing, but I noticed it and I was like, okay, this is good level design. Knocking them out is also helpful for making them stay on a switch for a little bit. You can't pick them up and place them down, you'll have to whack them over to it, which at first I thought would be a little bit annoying, but it's actually pretty good at figuring out where you want to aim it at. I think it's because it's actually hitting it in the direction tack is facing, so there's more influence based on what you push on the stick, rather than like trying to figure out what angle tack is to the chicken. Smart way of handling that, because the handling you have on this feels pretty dang good. I do think this temple drags on a little bit too long. I remember opening the last two doors and thinking, really, there's more? But overall, I do think it is a really fun part of the game. Up at the very top of the temple, we have a boss fight with pins. He's gonna float around and chuck eggs at you before hovering back over to the coop to restock. Now, it felt pretty obvious to put these eggs on this thing and then launch them over when he's doing that, but I ran out of these when I was trying to figure out what to do, so I got stuck with no ammo left. I was running in circles and I was like, I really don't know what else I can do here. After a while, I realized what I was missing. You gotta bait pins into throwing the eggs onto those nests you picked the eggs up from. Then you can pick them back up and launch them over at them. I don't know why Flora didn't tell me that. She was pretty interested in telling me how to do everything else here.
Hey, Tack, look up there. I've been watching for a while, and I noticed pins and needles always go to the chickens that are lit up.
Hey, Tack, I noticed the yellow paint is clearly telling you what to do. Yeah, I know that part, Flora. Tell me about the nests. Bust a shower, and then we get one more moonstone. That's 2 down, 1 to go. Ayo. Last up, we have the temple in Dry Rock Canyon, the Sun Temple. This is by far the most challenging part of the game, and it kind of borders on frustrating depending on how much Juju magic you still have. It's all about taking out every enemy in the room within a time limit, and they're all the hard enemies. You'll find these little vials of explosiveness that you can toss out across these lava tiles, and if you get it to shatter in a way that leads the splash over to the enemies, you can get a really satisfying chain reaction. Again, they're still introducing brand new ideas this far into the game, and they're really fun to play with too. Many of these rooms are not easy, but it didn't take me so many tries that I was getting really frustrated. It just felt like a good challenging room most of the time. But every now and then, it does feel a bit busted. This room was the worst. You gotta take these two guys out, the platform to the switch pops up, you go over and hit that switch, and the door opens. But every time you hit that switch, for some reason they respawn, and good luck getting by them within the time limit. You can't stop to fight them, the door closes. Doesn't feel like they're supposed to come back. You do so much work for every attempt, then it goes south in seconds, making you have to do the whole thing all over again. That was the worst one here. Some of the other rooms do have a similarly unforgiving time limit, but you can outsmart it if you think to hit the switch after taking everybody out. Almost feels like a work smarter, not harder kind of thing. I swear that must be deliberate. Some rooms are just a big gauntlet to take everybody out without dying, and as I said earlier in the video, this is where those Juju powers really come in handy. Those long stretches, oh my god, thank goodness for that thunder strike, thank goodness for that chicken spell, and thank goodness for that heal. If you die, everybody comes back, whole room restarts, so the stakes are pretty high. If you're gonna run out of Juju magic at any part of the game, this is gonna be it, and I can imagine that frustrating people, you know? Like, you do these 2 big long attempts with the help of of the Juju magic, and then it's like, oh, I'm all out. I can't ever get any more back, so I just have to do this room naked? Oh no. Luckily that didn't happen to me, but for others, this is gonna be where they use that cheat code. The boss fight here has you going up against pins and needles in a demolition derby, except instead of riding in cars, you're riding on chickens? Oh, that's a fun idea for a fight. A chicken fight, if you will. A chicken fight, if you will. Better write your will, cause it's you I'm here to kill. It's like you to seek a thrill, and that's a tough pill to swill. It's scary like Silent Hill, but if you show up for a fill, it's by attacking the power, you're getting killed. It's a chicken fight. It's a chicken fight. It's a chicken fight. It's a chicken fight. Fight! It's 3D joust for babies. Steer left and right, jump, grab the power-ups, fire it at them. Pretty self-explanatory, not very hard. Kinda fun though. They should have made a 2-player mode out of this. I mean, this was the era of thrown-together split-screen modes after all, but apparently they don't do that until TAC 2. Defeat pins and needles and the last moonstone is ours, and now it's spoiler territory? I don't know if anyone cares about spoilers for TAC, but here's the timestamp anyway. I don't know. With the temples completed and the moonstones retrieved, Jabulba summons the Moon Juju, and she's got a different idea of the prophecy in mind.
Give Locke the Juju magic you have collected. He must go and defeat Laylock and fulfill the prophecy.
Oh, don't you listen to him, Tack.
But Locke is...
Dead wrong.
The mighty warrior.
Says who?
I trained him.
You wasted your time.
But the prophecy says...
Doesn't say anything about Locke. Tack is the mighty warrior of the Pupanunu people's prophecy.
What?
I'm the mighty warrior?
Of course. You've done everything that the prophecy says the mighty warrior will do.
With everyone finally realizing that TAC is the only competent person in the whole game, we're sent through the portal, we go to confront Laylock, and we get one last boss.
You are no champion. You simply do not possess the power.
Bring it on, old man.
It's a pretty solid final fight. The set piece is there, it's explosive and chaotic. Sometimes he turns you into a chicken and you just gotta blitz through all these explosions. The fight even leans into the puzzle solving a little bit. One time you gotta use that chicken form to run through a narrow gap, and another time you're turned into a rhino and you gotta smash stuff. What you're trying to do here is destroy all of these weird plants Laylock made, and once done, this giant plant demon Venus flytrap thing opens up, from where we can fling ourselves into it to supercharge our club. You knock a whole bunch of guys out with this. Now, it took me a little while to realize, but after Laylock gets turned into a sheep, you're supposed to launch him into the big plant. He's sapped of all of his power, everything is turned back to normal, and Laylock is thrown back into the world as the useless sheep he tried to make everybody else. We end on one last shot of TAC celebrating, with a newfound confidence in knowing that, yeah, he really was the hero this whole time. And hey, yago! There's the credits. Well, before we wrap up, why don't we see what getting 100% gets us? You may only need half of the Yorbels, but getting all 200, that unlocks some storyboards. Well, at least that's what the internet told me. I collected every single goddamn last Yorbel in the whole game, which was really fun actually. Cleanup and TAC is real fun. But it didn't unlock anything. I got the message being like, yo, you got all the Yorbels, thingy unlocked. But then I go here to the menu where it's supposed to be, and there's nothing here. What's going on? So naturally, I scour the internet seeing if maybe I'm doing something wrong or did a glitch or something, but I couldn't find a single person who unlocked this in the GameCube version. I was only seeing PS2. The concept art you get for finding all 12 Lubu plants, I got that, but where's the storyboards? They're supposed to be right here. Like, look, this guy on YouTube is playing on PS2, and they're right here. Why are they not right there for me? All I can imagine is maybe they were cut from this version. I mean, the GameCube discs do have less space on them, so I guess a quick and easy way to drop some megabytes would be to just cut the unlockable that 90% of people aren't going to see anyway. But that's just a theory. I don't really know for sure. If you know for sure, and I mean for sure, like, I don't know, you scrape the disc and you know it's not on there, let us know in the comments below. We would all love to know. So, what are my final thoughts on TAC and the Power of Juju? Well, I'm gonna be honest. It's a lot better than I was expecting. You know, I was looking at this thing, I was thinking, there's no way this is going to be anything more than just the result of a bunch of marketing. I was thinking, there's probably going to be no real substance here. It's going to be some generic platformer with a bad feeling double jump that Nickelodeon basically paid for you all to remember. But man, after actually playing through the whole game, it is so easy to see why people had such fond memories of it, in spite of the weird and unlikely character designs. The writing and voice acting really stand out from the other games games of the time. The comedy is on par with your average Nick show, I'd say. Even if some jokes do miss or go on a little too long, it is consistently pleasant, and it even made me laugh a good number of times. The core gameplay may be pretty basic, but I still really appreciate it because the combat never wastes too much time, and at the end of the day, I'm jumping around the world in a way that is far more interesting than just another double jump. The puzzles are easily the strongest bit here though, like it really does successfully elaborate on each mechanic. You're always bumping into the same pieces, always performing the same actions, but they're always getting you to think about it a little bit more. Even if the individual pieces seem simple on their own, the arrangements do get more complex and more fun. I love how a lot of levels usually bring something new to the table. There is a solid variety in locations and puzzles and stuff, and even while some ideas do feel a bit underdeveloped or even broken sometimes, it always avoids the usual frustration spikes these games have. You know, where the mechanics just don't really work for a level, or one random mission is just way too annoying. I guess the chicken flight was kind of annoying, but hey, I'll take a slow move for one level over pulling my hair out trying the same mission over and over any day. And, you know, the chicken suit also had some fun stuff to it, so it wasn't a total bust. And even if I wasn't really big on the character designs, the graphics overall are a sight to behold. It's got all those swirly fantasy textures you'd expect from like a Rayman game or Psychonauts. It is whimsical as hell and really had me getting absorbed into this world. And that's why you gotta trust the process. I mean, it's really cool that Nickelodeon, you know, they added some stuff here and there, but they ultimately let them do what they wanted. And how many companies these days would ever let something like Tak get made? And even if they did, they would try to change so much about it. You know, kids aren't gonna find this cool, kids aren't gonna find Tak cool. But that's why it worked, because it was like, who cares what the kids want? Who cares what the kids find cool? They just let these guys go wild and make something weird and memorable. And hey, I think that's made Tak age a whole lot better than he would have if they came in and said, yo guys, you gotta make Sonic in sunglasses. The music is also fantastic, man. Like, it really fits the mood of whatever the game's going for super well, and a lot of it is really catchy and fun, too. I mean, that boss fight from earlier, it was so wicked that my brain was just making up a whole song to it. That's what the whole chicken fight stupid thing was earlier. I just could not resist putting that in this video. It's a shame I couldn't find out who actually made the music. Nobody here is properly credited. It's just a list of names with no roles beside them. Even in the manual it's like this, and on Moby Games, too. There was some great work done here, and it kind of blows to see people not really getting the whole credit they deserve. But yeah, I found myself really surprised with this thing. Probably most surprising was the wicked sick snowboard minigame, and the fact that it has a really fun escort mission. If you want to figure out how to do that in a really fun way, play this game. How does it stack up against similar games of the time though? Well, this is not really in any real thoughtful order. It's just a bunch of random games I've reviewed before, generally in order of how much I remember liking them. So, you know, over here you got games that I think are flat out bad. More so towards the middle you get into interesting or cool games that are pretty fun but have a lot of frustrating flaws. And as you get more to the right, you get closer to games that I think are actually pretty good. I would probably put it somewhere. I definitely don't like it as much as Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Probably between Ty and Vex, you know. Actually, no, I think I like Vex more. But Vex is harder and a little more frustrating, so more people would probably like it than Vex. Okay, for me, it's between Muto and Vex. That's where I would put it, because it's like, I don't think it's as interesting as either of these games, but the amount of polish is a lot better. It's got more consistent design, so I'd say that, I don't know, levels out. I don't know. Around there, I'd say, is where I would put it. Well, there's a long-awaited one finally off the goddamn bucket list. I'm looking hella forward to figuring out where this series goes. I mean, we still got 2 more main series games and whatever that spin-off thing is too. Not to mention the GBA games. I was gonna talk about the GBA version of this now, but I just realized this isn't even the right game. Oops. Well, I guess we'll be tackling all of the portables in one video down the road after I get them all. Yeah. We're gonna tackle this entire series, dude. You can look forward to a whole lot more Attack of the Power of Juju this coming year. Like, my firm Frogger focus, it's locked in. This is now my hyperfixation, and I will stop at nothing until I know what all of these games are all about in their entirety. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Tak 2, the Staff of Dreams, is gonna be all about. Is it gonna be more of the same, or will it be even better? Are they gonna lean into the puzzly strengths, or maybe it'll be worse. Maybe they'll get distracted by mechanics that aren't as good, or make it bad, or have too much combat or something. I'm always interested in seeing how that goes. So yeah, next time we're gonna be tackling Tak 2, the Staff of Dreams, for no other reason than I feel like it. Wow, thank you for watching this whole thing. That was a long one, but I really didn't expect this much to be said about Tak. I really see why this was always one of the most requested games here. If you want to support the show, I have a $1 podcast over on Patreon, or my friends and I just, I don't know, talk about whatever. And if you love retro 3D platformers, I cover a lot of those right here.